3 months ago, I got LASIK SMILE Pro done in Korea, which means that these I no longer need. In this video, I'm going to explain why I decided to get LASIK done in the first place, why I chose to do it in Korea as an American citizen who has never been to Korea, the most terrifying part of the entire process, and a 3-month update after getting surgery done on my eyes. But first, what is LASIK, and specifically SMILE Pro, the surgery that I got, which is the more advanced form of LASIK, which has become more and more popular in the last couple of years. Now, I am not an ophthalmologist at all, but from the way that I understand it, an advanced laser called a femtolaser was beamed right into my eyes and used to cut a slice of tissue from within my cornea. That tissue was then taken out through an incision, and thus my eye was reformed. Now obviously this was a pretty big decision for me to make because with all surgeries, things can go wrong, and I certainly don't want it to go wrong with my eyes. And so I'm going to walk you through my decision making for getting LASIK done in the first place. Before anything else, we have to start with the fact that I had bad eyesight. I grew up playing Pokemon and Super Mario Bros. On the Nintendo DS in the back seat of a car for hours, literally hours. I gamed pretty hard, I'd say, and by the time I was 20, I'd been wearing glasses with prescriptions that grew progressively worse and worse for more than 10 years. I'm going to try to show you how thick these lenses were. But basically, I was around -4 in one eye and -4.5 in the other eye with heavy astigmatism. Now, around when I was 21 or 22, I started to wear contacts. Now this was the time of COVID, and I really disliked the fact that my glasses would fog up when wearing a mask, and so contacts, for a while, was a great solution. I remember the first time I put a pair of these in, and I was mind blown. It was crazy. I mean, 10 years of wearing glasses, and all of a sudden, I can see without glasses, albeit with these on. Now for the next couple of years, I continue to wear contacts. I like how I look without glasses, and I also really start to get into running. As I start getting into more and more long distance events, from marathons to ultra marathons, both glasses and contacts started to become more and more of a hindrance. Glasses would be one more thing that would get in the way of headgear, like a headlamp or even a hat, and contacts had to be switched out every 8 or so hours. And so in the fall of last year, I did a ton of research on LASIK, its efficacy, success rate, failure stories, everything in between, and ultimately came to the conclusion that it'd just be too expensive. In New York, where I was potentially looking to do it, LASIK SMILE Pro costs could potentially set me back $6,000 to $7,000 to $8,000. But then I heard of the term medical tourism. I don't exactly remember where, but basically the idea is that someone goes on a trip or a vacation somewhere, and on that vacation pay money for elective surgeries and other healthcare related costs that are just way too expensive in the US. And I thought to myself, that's pretty interesting. What if I got LASIK done not in New York, but somewhere else in the world? Initially, I was thinking somewhere in China, because I am Chinese and my grandparents are in China, but I didn't really want to deal with the visa process. My stepmom, though, is from Korea, and some of her family there very graciously offered to host me for a couple of weeks if I were to choose to do the surgery there. I definitely waffled a bit because, again, this is a huge decision, but ultimately I decided to go for it. There were some other reasons for why Korea was a good choice too. Apparently they are super advanced in eye surgery. SMILE Pro, which is the most modern sort of LASIK technique, requires a specific machine called the Visumax 800, of which there are not actually that many machines in the US to start with, but there are many. I think at least like 5 in Korea. There's also more of a culture there of getting eye surgery done, and so I think that more procedures overall are done there, and so their surgeons are potentially more experienced. And then of course the big factor was the cost. In Korea, the surgery would cost around $3,000 to $4,000, I think, whereas in the US, again, we were looking at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000. Alright, so I go to Korea, specifically BGSS Eye Clinic, and the process is awesome. I get an English translator, shout out Jenny, who is super knowledgeable about the entire process, tells me exactly what I need to do, what eye drops I have to take, every part of what recovery looks like, and before I know it, I am on the operating table. And this is actually the most terrifying, harrowing part of the entire process. Remember when I explained the process behind SMILE Pro, in that you first get a laser that cuts a piece of tissue in your eye, and then you get that tissue taken out through an incision that is made. Well, between these two steps, there is a period of around 2 to 3 minutes where you have to get up from that one table where the laser was shown into your eyes onto the other table where the surgeon takes that piece of tissue out. And that period of time, I remember my vision just being sort of gray, like indefinite, like blurry. I can't see anything. And for those 2 to 3 minutes, I'm just thinking to myself, oh my God, what if I just fucked up my eyes for, ever? And that is a terrifying thought, because at that point, reversal is not an option if things go horrifically bad. This is, however, standard procedure, and everything I think actually worked really well. First off, like 24 hours after that surgery was done, I could see 20/20, which was amazing. It was just incredible. I could not believe sort of the progress that modern meditech has just gone. And the week after, in my follow-up appointment, my doctor told me that everything had gone, super well, my eyes were healthy, and that he expected that no regression would occur, which is one of the side effects of a certain small subset of surgeries, maybe like 2 to 3 to 10%, depending on how bad your initial eyesight was. My initial eyesight was like kind of bad, so there was this 6% of regression that I luckily probably avoided. Now at that point, I wasn't out of the clear yet. I had to take many different eye drops, I think 4 different kinds, of which were spaced out from somewhere between 2 to 4 hours every single day for a week, and then just a couple of different eye drops for the rest of that month. Since then, I've still been using eye drops, but now less frequently, and 3 months from now, I can basically say I have perfect vision with very little downside. Now obviously, given that I am super happy with how everything has been done, definitely no regrets. If anything, regret that I didn't do it sooner. Running now without having to worry about contacts or glasses is a daily blessing that so far I have not forgotten to be grateful for. And I won't go as far as to recommend, if you're considering surgery, to get it, because I think everyone's conditions are different. But I do want to give this data point of 1 that I am incredibly enthusiastic and happy about the fact that I got LASIK SMILE Pro done in Korea. Post your questions if you have them. Otherwise, peace. Thanks for watching.